Back at SEC Media Days in Dallas, Texas, and it is a pleasure to welcome to our program the Commissioner of the Southeastern Conference, Greg Sankey, is with us. And Commissioner, got a couple of tough things I want to ask you about before I get into some fun stuff. First one's NIL. I was always a believer in college athletes should be paid. Fought for it for 25 years. When it happened, when NIL happened, I was excited, thought it would make things easy. Well, it's far from easy. But is it working? Is it not working? Is it a work in progress?
I think all three. So I think it is a work in progress. This name, image, and likeness concept was implemented on a state-by-state basis. There's not sufficient consumer protections for the young people involved. Forget conferences and university athletic programs. And we've seen litigation. We've seen stories about non-payment for promises made. I think we can do a better job. It is working for some. Clearly, there's economic benefit being derived by young people that wasn't previously there. Is it consistent with the kind of business benefit that they generate? You know, we've now mixed recruiting, inducements into name, image, and likeness. I think that can be cleaned up. But I think you've seen circumstances of young people saying, you know what, rather than go after a possible or a marginal professional career, let me give myself another year, maybe 2 years to grow up and mature. I've got some economic benefit here, and I can stay enrolled in classes and grow as an individual. So that's a positive and a beneficial. So it's a mixed bag right now, and I hope we can all, and those involved us in college athletics and those involved in governance at the state and federal level, can come to better destination.
One thing you brought up on Monday was gambling, and now with gambling being legal in a lot of states and on college athletics, we've seen some hazards at the professional level. What's a concern? Is there a top concern that you have when it comes to legalized gambling on college sports?
There are several. One is the direct pressure on the participants from those who lose. And the first time I ever encountered this conversation was with an adult member of the PGA Tour saying, "You can't believe the abuse I experience if I miss a putt on the 18th and legalized gambling existing in Europe, the social media anger heaped upon me." Well, now we're putting that to 18 and 19-year-olds, to young people who may not have the maturity to handle the pressure. And we talk all the time about needing to support their mental health. That is a direct attack on their mental health, not to mention the decision-making of coaches. Second piece is there are incentives and oversight needs that need to be acknowledged. We have a former head coach who was involved in providing information to advantage an acquaintance, I guess, involved in placing bets. That's a threat to integrity. We've seen an NBA player lose his career for affecting the outcome of games, taking money from gambling. So those threats to the integrity of competition have to be understood. They have to be dealt with swiftly and severely. And lastly, while states are generating revenue from gaming, they have to invest aggressively in oversight and management. And I think when you go into a casino, in my experience, you're the most viewed from a video camera's perspective, but there's a lot more depth of oversight and enforcement, I think, that can still benefit the game participants who need to be protected from abusive behavior.
Many of us believe that the Southeastern Conference was powerful at 14. Now it's 16. What's the biggest benefit adding these two programs?
It allows us to control, if you will, our own decision-making, not to be reacting to the decisions of others. We moved first in 2021. You've seen the conference movement in 22 and 23 leading to kind of wholesale changes in 24, and really the evaporation of what's been a major conference. Rather than reacting and having to chase opportunities, those opportunities were acted upon by us. We've been able to sit and watch, still pay attention to what's happening, but not just be in a reactive position that can affect your thinking and decision making.
The standard in the past during the playoff was, I think, get a team in the playoff, if not two teams in the playoff. In a 12-team playoff, what do you envision those numbers being for the Southeastern Conference?
We'll clearly have one of the top 5 conference champions, so that's one, and then there will be 7 more at-large opportunities. So I guess we could max out at 1 plus 7, that's 8, if things go well.
That's a standard.
Yeah, that would be SEC arrogance speaking. I think the more realistic expectation is somewhere between 3 and 5. We've had, looking back, using the 12-team format combined with the selection criteria, years when we'd have 5 of the 12. Probably averages out to about 4. A few years where 3 and barely, but I would think in that 3 to 4 or 5 range would be our expectation. And I think part of the excitement is we've not had 5 teams, maybe 6 or 7 teams in late November under consideration for the playoff. And in this new model, you could have that many teams still with a chance as you go into early November, mid-November, and into late November. I think that draws people into the interest that will be present in college football.
You always talk in your address to the media about the success of the Southeastern Conference, and there's been a lot of success. And one of the things I think that was exciting was last night, Paul Skeens. Did you get a chance to see Paul throw last night?
I did, and I sat behind him at the home run derby. He was an observer and had a nice visit with Paul, talking about his experience at LSU. But really cool. A year ago he's riding the bus to Hoover from the Winfrey Hotel in Birmingham, and this year he's taking the mound to start for the National League in the Major League All-Star game. And between then and now, I think what he's done this season on the mound, he had that no-hitter going last week, but being in Texas and in Globe Life Field where the Texas Rangers play, Wyatt Langford, who was playing at Florida just over a year ago, has had an impact rookie year. And the wear and tear is hard, but still performing well. You saw Pete Alonso, who played at Florida, get in the game last night. So a lot of good and a lot of great around baseball, and our 5th straight national championship in the College World Series kind of put an exclamation point onto the season.
Can't wait for football to get started. Commissioner Sankey, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
We got a few more weekends. It'll be here.
It will be. All right, Commissioner Greg Sankey joining us here in Dallas from SEC Media Days. Keep it here on Grind City Media for updates from SEC Media Days all week.